I was 38 years old when my ex-wife's family called me a deadbeat at her sister's wedding. The wedding was at the old Grandview Manor in our small town of Millbrook, Pennsylvania, that humid August afternoon. I had been divorced from Sarah for 4 years, and I had built a quiet life working as a high school history teacher. My new girlfriend, Emily, was sitting beside me wearing a simple blue dress that matched her kind eyes perfectly. She squeezed my hand when she saw Sarah's mother whispering to the guests at the table across from us. I had been invited out of obligation by Sarah's father, a decent man who always liked me despite everything. The ceremony was beautiful, and I was genuinely happy for Sarah's younger sister who had found real love. But the reception had barely started when Sarah's aunt approached our table with a smug look on her face. She leaned down and said loud enough for everyone to hear that I was a deadbeat who abandoned his family. My face burned red as I felt the eyes of 50 wedding guests turn toward me with pity and judgment. Emily squeezed my hand tighter and whispered that she knew who I really was and to stay calm. Sarah's mother, who never approved of my simple teaching salary, was now nodding at her sister's cruel words. Sarah herself was across the room, but she saw the scene unfolding and looked away with a guilty expression. It was the same look she had given me 4 years ago when she told me she was leaving for good. She had said she needed more than a small-town teacher who would never give her the life she wanted. She had wanted the big house, the luxury cars, the exotic vacations that my salary could never afford. I had worked 2 jobs for years trying to give her those things, but it was never enough for her. She left me for a successful real estate developer and took our 2 beautiful children with her to the city. I saw my kids every other weekend and paid my child support on time without ever missing a single payment. But her family had always made me feel like I was somehow failing, like I was the one who broke the marriage. I worked hard to rebuild my life, and eventually I moved into a small but charming house on Maple Street. Emily had moved in next door 2 years ago, and she brought me a plate of homemade cookies on her first day. She was a kindergarten teacher with a gentle soul, and she never once judged me for my broken past. We started with morning coffee on our porches, and eventually we were sharing dinner every single night. She knew about Sarah and my kids, and she never pushed me to move faster than I was ready to go. When I told her about the wedding invitation, she said she would come with me and support me through it. Now, here we were, sitting at this beautiful wedding, and Sarah's family was publicly shaming me again. I looked at Emily and I saw her eyes were full of anger, but she was holding it back with grace. She stood up from her chair and looked directly at Sarah's aunt with a calm and steady voice. She said that the man you just called a deadbeat has never missed a single child support payment in 4 years. She said that he works 2 jobs and still finds time to coach his son's little league team on weekends. She said that he helped his daughter with her science project until midnight when she was struggling with it. She said that the real deadbeat is someone who abandons family and leaves others to clean up their mess. The entire room fell silent as Sarah's aunt stood there with her mouth open and her face turning red. I could see Sarah's mother look down at her plate, ashamed of what her sister had done to me. Sarah herself was now walking toward us with a pale face, and I could tell she was feeling guilty. She reached our table and she looked at Emily with a strange mixture of anger and respect in her eyes. She said that she was sorry for what her aunt had done and that I had always been a good father. She said that she knew I had never missed a payment and that she should have defended me long ago. I looked at Sarah and I saw something I had not seen in years, a flicker of genuine regret in her expression. I told her that I forgave her and that I hoped she was happy with her new life and her new husband. She nodded and walked away, but I saw her wipe a tear from her eye as she returned to her table. My lawyer, David, who was sitting 2 tables away, had been watching the entire scene unfold before him. David had been my best friend since college, and he knew everything about my divorce and my struggles. He was the one who had helped me fight for fair custody terms when Sarah had tried to take the kids completely. He knew that I had paid every dime of child support on time, and that I had never missed a visit with my children. David stood up and walked over to our table with a proud smile on his face and a glass of wine in his hand. He said he was proud of how I handled the situation, and he toasted to my character and integrity. He said he had watched me struggle and rebuild, and he knew the man I had become was better than ever before. He mentioned that he was my lawyer, and that anyone who doubted my honesty could speak with him any time. He looked at Sarah's aunt and said that she should be ashamed of herself for spreading such cruel lies. The wedding guests began to murmur, and I could see people looking at Sarah's family with disapproval now. Sarah's father came over and shook my hand, telling me that he had always respected me as a man and a father. He said that his wife and his sister-in-law had been wrong about me, and he was sorry for what happened. I told him that I accepted his apology and that I wished his daughter all the happiness she deserved. Emily looked at me with a smile that lit up her entire face, and she took my hand in hers again. She said that she was proud of how I had handled everything and that she loved me more in that moment. I realized that the woman I truly loved had been sitting right beside me the whole time I was suffering. She had seen me at my worst, and she had never wavered in her belief that I was a good man. Later that night, after the wedding was over, we sat on my porch under the stars and talked about everything. I told Emily that I was scared of being hurt again and that I did not want to lose her like I lost Sarah. She took my hand and said that real love is not about perfection, but about showing up every single day. She said that she knew my past was painful, but that she was not going anywhere and she would stay. She told me that love is a choice, and she chose me every morning and every night without hesitation. I asked her if she would be willing to build a life with me, and she said yes without a single moment of doubt. We sat in silence for a long time, just holding hands and watching the fireflies dance in the warm summer air. I realized that everything I had been through had led me to this exact moment on my porch with Emily. The pain of losing Sarah had taught me what I truly needed in a partner and what I could give to someone. I learned that being a good man is not about money or status, but about being present and loving and kind. I had been called a deadbeat, but I knew in my heart that I had always given everything I had to my family. My children loved me, and I knew that was all that mattered in the end, no matter what anyone said. Emily kissed me gently, and I felt like the luckiest man alive for having her in my life. A year later, we were married in a small ceremony at the town courthouse with just our closest friends and family. My children were the flower girl and ring bearer, and they were so happy to see their father truly happy. Sarah had come to the wedding too, and she told me that she was finally happy for me and for my new life. She said that she had been wrong to leave the way she did, and she was grateful that I had found someone. She gave me a hug, and I felt a sense of closure that I had never felt before in all my years. Emily and I bought a bigger house with a big backyard so our families could gather together on weekends. I continued teaching history, and I was finally named Teacher of the Year at my high school. My students respected me, and I felt proud of the work I was doing in the community every single day. Emily was promoted to principal of her school, and she became a role model for so many young women. We had a daughter together, and we named her Grace because she was the grace that saved our blended family. My ex-wife Sarah and I actually became friends again, and we co-parented our children with love and respect. The children thrived because they knew they were loved by both their parents and their new step-parent. I never forgot what happened at that wedding, and I never forgave Sarah's aunt for what she did to me. But I chose to let go of the anger because I realized that holding on to it would only hurt me more. Forgiveness is not about accepting what happened, but about freeing yourself from the weight of resentment. The people who called me a deadbeat did not know the truth, and I did not need their approval anymore. I had built a beautiful life with a beautiful woman, and I was grateful for every moment of joy we shared. It took losing everything to realize what I truly wanted and what I truly deserved from this life. I deserved someone who saw my value and who loved me for who I was, not for what I could give. Emily saw me at my lowest point, and she still chose me, and that is the greatest gift I have ever received. I sometimes think about how different my life would be if I had stayed with Sarah and tried to make it work. I know that I would have been miserable, and I would never have found the happiness I have right now. Every struggle I went through led me to Emily and to the life we built together with love and patience. I am not the man I was 10 years ago, and I am grateful for every scar and every lesson I learned. The scars remind me of where I came from, and they keep me humble and focused on what matters most. What matters most is being present for my children and my wife and showing up for them every single day. It is not about grand gestures or expensive gifts, but about being there when they need you the most. I have learned that true love is not about finding someone perfect, but about loving someone perfectly. Emily and I have been married for 5 years now, and our love has only grown stronger with each passing day. We have our small fights and disagreements, but we always work through them with kindness and patience. I have never been happier in my entire life, and I owe so much of that to Emily and her gentle heart. She taught me that I was worthy of love, and that my past did not define who I could become in the future. My children call Emily their second mom, and they adore her as much as I do with all my heart. They have learned from her that kindness is stronger than cruelty, and that love can heal any wound. I think about that wedding day sometimes, and I realize that it was a turning point in my life forever. If Sarah's aunt had not humiliated me, I might not have seen the truth of my worth and my value. And I might not have realized just how lucky I was to have Emily sitting right beside me through it all. She was my quiet strength, and she continues to be the anchor that keeps me grounded every single day. I am not a deadbeat. I am a father and a husband, and a man who learned to love again against all odds. Thank you for spending your time with Heartline Stories Truth. Subscribe for more original stories about family, resilience, healing, and second chances.